Hi, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be present here. As was said, my name is Katerina Rudko, and I'm Chief Administrative Officer of Belka Games. Those of you who have heard about Belka Games, please raise your hands. Yeah, so many of you. A couple of words about us. Okay, everything is working. We are a game development company with 3 active projects in operation and with total audience over 1 million players a day. As many companies, we started as a group of enthusiasts, and today we are a company of 350 employees in offices around the world. Game dev company is not only creative people, artists, producers, there is also a back office, administration. And for administrative team of our company, the past 3 years have been, let's say, a turbulent time. We have faced a number of global and regional challenges. These challenges made us tougher, they taught us to optimize, they not just taught us how to do a lot of things, but they also taught us to make the quality of what we do as good as possible as well. The first challenge was the beginning of 2020 with COVID-19 pandemic, when we have to transition all our work and adapt it to a remote mode. It was something new. We have never done it before. It was really challenging. Then we faced the first wave of relocation from Belarus in August 2020. It was also something new. We have never done this before. Within a very short period of time, we relocated a lot of people. We opened, within 2 months, 3 new offices in 3 new countries. 2 of them were in the European Union. We made it before it became a mainstream. An ultimate test for our administration team was the beginning of 2022. The war in Ukraine began. 3 of our 6 offices were just in the middle of events. It was 90% of our company, 90% of our employees. We had 3 very serious tasks to fulfill. Well, first of all, we had to help our people in Ukraine leave the country, ensure their safety, and assist in any way we could. There was panic everywhere. There were traffic jams on the borders. There were problems with withdrawing money from ATMs. People were scared and people were shocked, and they needed our help. The second task was to help people from other countries that were involved in or affected by war to leave the countries, to relocate somewhere. Tickets were disappearing in front of our own eyes. The borders were shut down and closed. Again, everyone was in shock and they needed our help. And the third task was to open offices in new locations in order to provide with people who suffered from war choices. More choices where they can go, relocate, and settle, and provide them with possibility to live in safer environment. I would say that these 3 tasks would require months of planning. Not speaking that it would require twice as many people as we had in administration. And not mention that we couldn't even imagine such kind of scenario because we were not prepared for it. It was something that we did not expect. But I would say that we overcame these challenges in a way that we can be proud of. We did really a lot. Let me share some of the results for 6 months. By September 2022, we relocated more than 160 employees, plus members of the families, plus the cats, dogs, parrots, and even one snake. True story. We organized special chartered flights because it was practically impossible to buy tickets. It was impossible to find good flights in order to travel from one country to another. That's why we took care of it for the first time. Well, it was like, we have never done it before. We used special channels to get people to the European Union, even when they didn't have Schengen visa. We couldn't even imagine that it was possible, but for us, it became possible. We booked entire hotels in the locations where there were a lot of our people who were forced to move from their home countries. And and then we opened offices in 2 new locations, in Montenegro and in Georgia. By the end of September 2022, we had 50, 60 people working in each of these offices, and all of them had legal immigration status already. All of this was done only by one team. During this period of time, administration team had to work as travel agents, lawyers, notaries, translators, specialists in immigration rules, pet vaccination specialists, etc., and a little bit of psychologists. And looking back, I think that it wasn't just luck. No. We actually used a number of principles, approaches that helped us to accomplish all of it. And today I'm going to share these principles with you because I believe that they're universal. No matter where you work, you can apply this principle in order to help yourself, in order to help your team, your company navigate through turbulent times. Principle number 1, drop anything that is not important. This is very effective principles that can be applied during short period of time. If you imagine your task list as a ship sailing in the sea, this principle actually says, drop the ballast, streamline your pipeline, please focus on what really matters. It means that during turbulent times, you have to forget about perfectionism, forget about excessive processes, forget about your vision of how things should be done in the right way. Just focus on what really matters. And in our situation, it was helping people. Example. We had almost 50 employees arriving in Lithuania almost simultaneously. And during this period of time, we had only one poor regional director in Lithuania who had to deal with all of their problems, all immigration issues, helping people with finding kindergartens and schools, etc. So we needed to find out how we can manage this situation. That's why we sat down and decided to put on hold everything that wasn't that important. We decided to just stop doing paperwork for vacations, sick days, that not very important stuff that can be put on hold. But in such a way, we can provide our regional director with time and space for dealing with what really mattered. By the beginning or the middle of September, we could resolve almost all immigration issues with those people who arrived in Lithuania, and we just returned to all this paperwork that we ignored for a couple of months. We completed everything. We closed our financial year in Lithuania. We undergone some financial checks and tests, which meant that in the long run, we haven't lost anything. No. When it was important, we did what was important. And we just put on hold something that could wait. So in critical times, that might be your lifesaver. So try to use it. Second approach is called role rotation. You can agree with your team or with the members of your team that for a certain period of time, which would be short, they will be doing things which are outside the normal responsibilities, things that they are not very much familiar with. When the war started, administration team of our company actually became a call center. We organized special channels in Slack for people who were looking for help and assistance with travel activities. And we asked our office managers and event managers to help us for a certain period of time manage these channels. And as a result, these people helped with finding tickets, finding accommodation, finding information about border crossing, etc., etc. And it really helped. It really worked. In a month and a half, most of the people already relocated, and we faced another challenge, that people were coming to new countries, all shocked, all lost, and they were faced with the necessity to find basic information like where I can buy a SIM card, what are mobile operators, where should I look for a list of kindergartens or schools? The heads were like mumbling, jumbling, because that's a lot of information that you have to find out yourself. That is why we used this role rotation thing for the second time. We split it between our event managers and office managers, locations where we had offices, and we asked them to help us to prepare knowledge base about each of the countries. In such a way, a person arriving, for example, in Lithuania or in Cyprus will open special page in our knowledge base and will read, will find answers that are already gathered together in one place. If we decide to find new employees or subcontractors to fill in these roles, it would require weeks, at least, to find these new subcontractors or employees. And we didn't have this time. It was crucial to act as fast as possible because we had to help our people, our employees. That is why this approach really helped us. There are two things I would like to stress out about using this approach. Well, first of all, you should discuss with your team members the importance of these role rotation things for the whole company. The thing that if they will agree, they will help the company greatly. And the second thing is to discuss that this role rotation will be only temporary, not forever. So just, explain some time frames. And, okay, some additional thing is that your team members might gain unconventional experience due to this role rotation. For example, I'm sure that participating in the activities that I mentioned before of our office managers and event managers enhanced the stress managing skills greatly. The third principle, I would call it information fast track. In administration, we have a certain schedule of meetings. So we sync on meetings, and we have a certain schedule for it, because we have a lot of offices, so we need to organize it somehow. For example, I have weekly meeting with Lithuanian office on Monday, weekly meeting with Georgian office on Thursday, etc., etc. But when you're in the middle of crisis, time is essential. When you're in the middle of crisis that we had, information is also essential. And when you put these two things together, you understand the faster you get important information, the faster you may react. We needed to know information about closing borders, the flights or airlines that stopped operating, changing the rules of opening bank accounts for migrants immediately. We needed to know it as soon as it happened. That's why we organized a common channel for the whole administration where we could immediately share any news we had. Any news we had, we shared immediately, because in such a way we could adjust our plans also immediately. In general, I would say that having a common channel for the whole team might be a time thief, because everyone is sharing pictures of the cats, dogs, cakes. But in critical situation, that might be a game changer, really. The first principle is called automation. Well, actually, we love automation because it helps us to spend less time and less effort on the things and on the process that do not require too much of human involvement. When the war began, our automation team helped us to create a Slack bot. This Slack bot sent messages to each of our employees asking about their whereabouts. So instead of doing it manually, like, hi, where are you right now? We do it with the help of automation. It gave our team more time to be focused on some other very important things, but at the same time, this Slack bot collected data for us. And this data was used by us for making very serious decisions. Data-driven decisions, actually. This information helped us to decide where we should organize chartered flights, where we should book entire hotels because there are a lot of our employees, where we should open new offices because we already see, for example, that there are a lot of people in Georgia. Might be a good thing to do. Right now, we also use automation in our work, and I would say that laziness and boredom help us in this endeavor, because once you get bored with doing something once and once again, you try to find a way to delegate it to machines through automation. One more principle called single coordination center. In Belka games, we adhere to the policy of joint decision making. It means that we sit down, we discuss, we exchange our views, we try to make sure that the final decision would, have something good from everyone involved. But when you're in the middle of crisis, you might not have the luxury of all the time in the world to discuss it for a number of times and spending days and weeks on making some decisions. That is why it might be a good idea to give a will to one person. One person who has most of the information, one person who is not afraid of making decisions, one person who will try to think how these decisions might impact like people around, company, other teams. And it will save a lot of time spent on decision making, because when you have dozens of people sitting in the airport on their bags or sitting like in hub transit country, so these people are sitting and asking you where to go, where new offices will be open. In this situation, you don't have too much time. You have to decide faster. So the most challenging thing about this approach is to find the right person to whom you may give the will. Principle number 6, my favorite, the right to make mistakes. Give this right to yourself and to your team. It's impossible to know everything. It's impossible, to anticipate everything. Mistakes will happen. We just need to admit it. In critical situations, the most important thing is to do the best you can do. but not to try to follow the principle of mistakelessness. If the fear of making mistakes paralyzes your team, it might set you back for a couple of days, and you don't have this time. You have to act quickly. You're in the middle of crisis. You cannot just stand frozen. That's why I believe that perfectionism, desire to make decisions only within good fact that you know for sure, may equal delay. So sometimes it is better just to make a deep breath and make your move. If mistakes happen, you will know better for the future. But right now, you have to act. As they say, sometimes it's better to deliver a good project in time than never deliver a perfect project at all. The last principle I would like to share is called admit that we are not all powerful. It's important to understand for yourself and discuss it with your team that we cannot answer any question and solve all the problems. My personal vision is that cultivating the image of all-powerfulness of a team, of a company, of a certain individual is detrimental to everyone. Because if, employees put high hopes on the company or, for example, on some team members, they become less involved in the issues that they actually raised. On the other side, people who are seen as all-powerful, they burn out. They feel guilt, they feel shame because they are not able to accomplish what they're expected to do. That's why in critical times, I would say it is very important not to overwhelm expectations placed on the members of your team. The best thing you can do as a leader, as a manager, is to support your teammates and be grateful to them for what they're doing. As an example, when the war started, our main goal was to help people in our Ukrainian office. Men were not allowed out of the country. And administration team spent almost 2 months looking for ways and loopholes in order to help the man leave the country, not the woman, the man. But at some point, we had to admit that here, unfortunately, we are powerless. We cannot find safe and legal way to do it. So it was heartbreaking for us, but we knew for sure that we did everything we could. With the help of these 7 principles, 7 approaches, we provided business continuity of our company. We helped our people to find safer place to work and to do what they love, making games. And we felt that we did a great job for our team. We helped our people, and at the end of the day, people is what really matters, because they brought us where we are right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, sounds like an extremely useful experience that you prefer not to have.
Exactly.
Okay, if you have any questions, there is a mic, so you can just come and ask if you have something to ask. Okay, so let's be warming up the audience. So you told a lot about multitasking, that a lot of people starting to resolve new problems for them during this period, but still, did you hire during this process some maybe people for some specific task, something like that? Did you
Great question. You know, I think that I'm that much proud of what we've done, because during this period of time, the headcount of administration had never increased. We started with the number 20, and Right now, the number is approximately the same. So we all did by ourselves using all of these approaches, and that's what helped us to accomplish it.
Oh, that's impressive.
Thanks.
So, any questions? Don't be shy. You'll regret that you never asked this.
Hi,
Hi.
thank you so much for the presentation. It was very
Thank you.
useful, and especially as for the person who also underwent all these during crisis. How many team members did you have on your team, administration team? And how did you delegate or split between you the activities? I mean, how would you recommend to do it if this happens again to be as more efficient as possible? Hopefully not.
Yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed. We had 20 people at the beginning of 2022. Right now we have 22 people in administration. You know, I believe that one of the things that helped is that I had really high level of trust in our team, because I knew that each member of my team is very strong. Probably he or she doesn't even know that he or she is that strong, but I believe in that. That's why let's try. Of course, there were mistakes. I mean, something did wrong, but that's a part of the process. If you don't go further because of something going wrong, that would, as I said, paralyzes everyone. So I delegated a lot of work, but still I was, by the way, the person with the will, as you understand. Delegation is something that was a rather difficult thing for me at the beginning of my career, and right now I understand that this is something that promotes effective work. You give each person in your team possibility to grow, because you give more responsibility, you give more creative tasks. In such a way, you provide them with the possibility to grow, and the quality of work that you do grow altogether. Thank you.
You mentioned about the Slack bot that you created during this process.
Yeah.
And is there any other tools that you start using while this relocation period, and maybe continue using maybe in different ways? But just question about the tools, maybe programs, but it says a lot about managing all this.
Well, actually, we use basic tools, as I guess every company. Our thing is that we use it in a more effective way. Again, Slack is a messaging tool, just to communicate. But we found two ways to use it more effectively: Slackbot from one side, and these common channels from another side, and the channels for those who were willing to relocate in order to manage all their requests. The third example, we actively use a lot of tools from Google, like, for example, Google Sheets, to analyze data to see, because if you use it in elevated way, it can be very helpful. So that's why I wouldn't say that there is something very specific, just more effective way to use common tools that almost every company is using.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yeah, sure, you can come to the microphone and ask it. All questions should be recorded, I'm sorry. That's why I asked you to walk.
Hi, thank you
Hi.
for the talk. I actually had a question about the role rotation.
Yeah.
So you, just like a question there, so stuff needed to be delegated, right? And people needed to go to other roles. Did you feel any effects afterwards? So let's say the period was over, right? Did you feel any effects? Did any people literally just say, actually, that is what I want to do. Like, that's what I'm going to be doing now. So what were the effects of the role rotation, essentially?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Well, in this particular example, side effects were only positive, because people tried something new. Well, the first and the most important effect was time management, because people had to deal with the work they used to do, and right now with new work, so they have to be more, creative with managing their time. Then stress management skills also, enhanced greatly, because when you have to manage a channel where there are like 50 people sitting and asking, I need an urgent flight from Istanbul to Georgia, please girls help me. So you have to deal with these requests quickly, because you understand that, well, the tickets right now here, in 5 minutes there might be no tickets already. So soft skills were upgraded greatly. If, as a side effect, we would have the fact that someone will come and say, Kate, I have always dreamt to deal with traveling or something. Actually, we would consider it, because we have a lot of examples in our company where people were making this role rotation on a constant basis. Like, we, for example, had office manager who then decided to start drawing and became an artist, and we supported her on every step. That's why role rotation is a win-win for everyone, and especially when you use it in crisis times, because it might be saving a lot of time for you.
More questions?
Well, as a person who flew with a chartered flight, lived in a booked hotel, lived in for 2 months without a residence permit, I want to say a real thank you, and Kaisa was really a lifesaver. Yeah.
Thank you.
And also, I wanted to ask, like, how do you start to delegate? How do you find out that it's time to delegate a bigger, more complicated task to a person when you see when it's ready?
Thank you for your question. Unfortunately, I can't be too much proud to say that I began to do it, deliberately, because of my vision that this is the right thing to do. Well, actually, I was more prone to, control everything at the beginning of my career. But when these kind of challenges happen, you just, learn to do it. And I would say that the first challenges that I mentioned, COVID-19 pandemic and the first wave of relocation from Belarus that started in August 2020, these events taught me to do it. Well, actually, I didn't have much choice, though there are two variants: just lay down and suffer, or start to delegate effectively. So I made the right decision, the right choice. I started to delegate effectively, and with each challenge you understand how important it is, because for some people who are managing big teams, there might be a mistaken vision, and I'm guilty of it at the beginning of my career, that the more you control, the more effective things are going on. But that is not true. This is totally not true. The more you believe in your people, the more you delegate, the more you put trust in your team members, the more effective your work is.
And what about your projects? The game support was like frozen, and development maybe on new games during this period, or you continue to minimum necessary support for them?
Well, I believe that I'm not the super right person to answer, but in general, of course, it took us some time, to make some maybe changes in priorities, yes, in the flow. But in general, everything is going well. We're proud of our projects.
Nice to hear that. Okay. Anyone has more questions? Well, then,
Thank you.
I need to thank you for this perfect session. Thank you very much.